Well, it's more of asking for a story time.
Okay.
And I thought it was a beautiful story. The story is St. Paisios, where he describes the tomato plant. That story is very helpful for a lot of the questions I'm getting. Is when people first feel the grace of God. I've experienced it myself, and then you kind of feel like something's there with you, helping you, holding your hand, and all of a sudden you're alone. You're like, what's going on here? Do you want me to sing? Okay, I'll sing. You know, and then you start getting upset. You don't know what to do. And when I heard you tell that story, it was so St. Paisios, if I can say it that way. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great story because we all have that situation you're talking about where we feel like we're helped, we got our training wheels on, you know, and then all of a sudden and kind of the carpet's pulled out from under us. We feel like we're alone or abandoned, or we're calling out like David, you know, where are you? How long will you be away from me? These kinds of things. And so St. Paisios has this wonderful story to help remedy this. And it's, like you said, it's so in his character because it's so simple. And he said that when he plants his tomato plants, he waters them every day. He cares for them. He even moves them from one window to the next. And he's saying this story to a man who asked him, why do I feel like the grace of God has abandoned me or left me? Or why do I feel uninspired or things like this? Or why is God so close and then sometimes he's not? It's something around those lines is like the question. And so St. Paisios is telling him about these tomatoes and how he cares for them so much. He nurtures them so much. He's always caring for them. He's joyful for when they sprout, he talks about, right? But he says there's like this turning point where he says, when they reach the age that I'm going to put them outside, he said, I put them outside and then I neglect them. He said, I don't water them. I just walked past them. I ignore them, you know, these kinds of things. And he said, right when they're about to they're wilting, and right when they're about to die, then he starts to water them again and care for them again and give them the same kind of treatment they got when they were inside, when they were just seeds and little sprouts. And the reason why he said this, he said, the reason why I do that is because they start to grow deeper, the roots start to grow deeper and search for water, so that when I water them again, I fertilize them again, they'll bear more fruit than they would have if I just continued to baby them all of the time, you know? And so the whole lesson was that the Lord allows us to have these periods where we feel, of course, we're not alone ever, right? But where we feel like we're struggling a little bit more or a little bit more on our own. And there's a temptation for us to kind of despair or to begin to entertain the idea that God's grace has abandoned us or that there's no hope for us. The Lord is actually doing us a great favor, and he's allowing us to struggle a little bit more to try to get our roots a little bit deeper, so that when the grace does come and rest on us again, that we'll be able to bear more fruit, right? And so it's a great story because it helps us in times where we might think that we're alone or think that we're too weak to do something or whatever. It gives us a little motivation, you know. I guess you can also say that, you know, with a child, if you give them everything they want their entire life, then they'll never actually grow to appreciate it, you know. Yeah. And that's how we are, you know, and the Lord knows that. And so if he were to nurture and baby us our entire life, there was no struggle, we wouldn't really grow to appreciate the grace of God in our life. But when there is some struggle and there's some effort to get something, to attain something, then at the end, when we've attained it, we have a great appreciation and a love for God's presence in our life. So, you know, St. Joseph said, St. Joseph the Hesichist says, nobody gets to heaven sitting in an armchair. Yeah. Or he said, if there were no temptations, nobody would be saved, is what he says. I love that one. Yeah. I think St. Anthony says something along those lines too. But so when these temptations come in our life, when we feel overwhelmed, don't lose spirit. Be courageous in your struggle and fight to seek out that water, you know. because the Lord will water us again, we have to be ready to bear more fruit and to multiply our talent given to us.
Oh, that was beautiful. As you were saying that, it reminded me of my grandfather, who, even when I was talking to Father Turbo, he came up as well. So it's funny. It just popped in my head because my dad told me a story when he went back to Cyprus not too long ago. He noticed that the tree roots were higher to the ground. He could see them. And he would say, he says, they're overwatering them. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, because they're overwatering them, the roots don't have to dig as deep.
Oh,
and it was almost like, yeah. So as you were saying that, that popped in my mind. Like, oh wait, my grandfather was like, that's what he taught us. Like, well, through my father, that idea. And it's true. It's true. The roots, you could see them, and that's a really, what a beautiful story. Saint Paisios always has these ways of kind of connecting with you on a simple, like complicated issues in a simple way.
Absolutely.
Like, there's no better way of putting it. It's like,
absolutely.
Και νικαιάει και εις τους αιώνας των αιώνων. Αμήν.